Okie dokie. We're going to do a little bit less of a, well, it could be deemed as a scientific lecture here, or a religious lecture. It depends on how you look at it. I think some people will be surprised by this lecture coming from a strict scientist because I actually validate and prove that faith is a certainty. So let's try to do that now. Whenever I heard faith and whatever, to me it seemed silly. What is faith? Just throwing your hopes up and seeing what happens and never really engaging in life and trying to change what, instead of hoping for something, why don't you do something about it? So I always thought as faith is a silly word. But one day I realized that faith is an absolute necessity in every person's life, even the most hardcore scientists, let alone the religious and spiritual people, and including myself, who I am the least religious or spiritual person that I have ever come across. So how did I come to that conclusion that faith was an absolute certainty and necessity? I came at it actually through a mathematically, I came through that faith was a certainty. And what I realized was that, here, let me just give you the definition and then we'll talk about it. I realized that faith was simply a probabilistic analysis by life, animals, humans, whatever you have, maybe even plants have faith to some degree. We'll try to show you that. What do I mean by faith as probabilistic analysis? Well, let's take some simple examples, so hopefully we'll get that idea across clearly. I have my grocery store. I think that might have been one of the first things I thought of, my grocery store example. And that was that I was in a grocery store, and again, being a mathematician, I asked a strange question, which sometimes strange questions are where we get our greatest ideas. Einstein did that. Anyways, my question in the grocery store was, why am I walking outside? And any normal person would say, well, because you're going to go to your car to drive home. And my question was much deeper than that. My question was, who says that my car, first of all, is out there? After all, around the world, a lot of people have walked out of their grocery stores in the past and tomorrow and in the future, and they walk out and their car was stolen, and their car isn't there, or maybe an earthquake came by and their car fell into a hole and it's not outside the grocery store. The point is that in the grocery store, I couldn't prove that my car was outside. And then I did further analysis and realized, well, how about if there's windows? I can see that my car is outside. Okay, so now that's why you're walking outside the grocery store. But then I went further and I said, well, a lot of people on this earth in the past and in the future and today walked out to the grocery store, got in their car, and their car didn't start. So their car didn't take them home. So this idea that you're leaving the grocery store to get into your car or jump on your bicycle or get on the bus, wasn't a certainty. There was a probabilistic analysis to that. Now, yes, 99.99% of the people that walk out of the grocery store, the bus is waiting for them. Their car is working and it's not been stolen and whatever. But a lot of people have had their car not working for them. And then it went further where, remember, you said I walked out of the grocery store to get in my car to drive to my house. Well, some people drive to their house and their house is burned down or destroyed or a hurricane has taken it away. I know they're low probability scenarios, and that's one of the points of probabilistic analysis is that low probability events, we can go to higher probability events. I just give you an extreme example so we can learn how faith is absolutely necessary to function in everyday life. We have to have faith that our car is going to work, that our house is going to be there, that when we get there into our house with our groceries, our refrigerator won't be broken, and we'll go, oh shoot, I wish I hadn't had shopped for groceries that day. They're all going to get spoiled with our broken refrigerator. So what we do is faith. We cannot function without faith, because the only option we have to, if we don't want to have faith that our car is working there, is in the grocery store. I have to mathematically prove that my car is going to run, my house is going to be there, the refrigerator is going to be working, and so on and so on. And mathematically proving that would be an impossibility. It would be impossible to say, oh, I know for sure I'm going to not get in an accident on the way, home with my groceries or that. The world is way too complex for us to mathematically prove that events are going to occur the way we think that they're going to occur. And sometimes events don't occur the way we think they're going to occur. And it's pleasurable. We like that, We might meet a friend and never get home with our groceries at home. So the person who I asked, hey, why am I going outside? And he said, to get in your car to drive home and put your groceries away. Well, maybe I met a friend and we got talking, and I went over to their house, put my groceries in their house. So this person who said, oh, there's a high probability that this person's going to go home and put groceries in his house, this person was wrong, okay? Let alone I might have dropped my groceries down a manhole and they're gone, So there are a lot of things that can happen, maybe low probabilistic things, but they're still probabilistic. Because they have happened to people in the past, and they will happen to people in the future, and they're not out of, outlandish things. We can even say a meteor might hit your house, or hit the parking lot outside the grocery store. It could happen, and there's a very low probability for having it. The other discussion I want to talk about is planes, of course. When people get on a plane, many people have seen planes or heard of planes crashing, and 300 people died and whatever, and so on and so on. And so, you wonder, why do people even get on planes? Well, what are they doing? Yes, one, the spiritual word is to say faith, and my word is to substitute for faith probabilistic analysis. 99.99% of the planes don't crash. So nobody should have a fear of flying on planes, even though I do, and a lot of people do. But mathematically thinking, if they have a fear, if they really think they're the one in a billion persons who's going to die in an airplane crash, then they should be spending all their money on the lottery, because that has about the same probability of you winning the lottery as 1 in a billion. So why don't all these people who fly planes spend all their every penny they have on the lottery? They're not being consistent, including me, where I don't like to fly on planes. I will, if I have to, but I do not play the lottery. So I'm a hypocrite like anybody else. Okay. All right. So let's keep on going here. So I write here that the mathematically proving certitude that an event is going to happen is not only impossible, it's inefficient. I can't sit in the grocery store for 4 years and prove that my car was this, even if I could call somebody and say, can you make sure my car is running? Can you make sure my house is there? Can you make sure my refrigerator is working? Can you make sure there's no friends out in the parking lot? And so on. It's totally inefficient way to live life. Though some people may manifest their psychology that way. So what we see is that faith and certainty is a spectrum, just like light. It's a spectrum where you have absolute faith, where you're pretty sure something's going to happen, and when you have absolute certainty. But I believe all three of these are silly, because if we take some examples, you might be, somebody might ask you, hey, do you have cancer? And you say, no, I don't have cancer, that's because you haven't been to a doctor recently. But But lo and behold, the next day you decide to go to the doctor and you get diagnosed. So when you were absolutely certain, because you didn't feel bad or anything, you felt pretty good. You were absolutely certain you didn't have cancer, or you were absolutely certain that your car was going to run outside of that grocery store. When you go in there and you're diagnosed with cancer, I know that's a horrible idea to put in your thing, but I'm trying to use extreme cases so that hopefully you listen to me. You don't fall asleep. But we'll take the car not working. When you're getting your car outside the grocery store and it's not working, your absolute certainty is flipped on its head. From you were absolutely certain that your car was going to be working to now you're absolutely certain that your car is not working and you will not get home with your grocery store. So should you slide everything to pretty sure? You're pretty sure. Well, pretty sure things fall into the same area as absolute certainty. And then you have the absolute faith, where you don't do any analysis whatsoever in your life, and you just go through life just believing everything and assuming everything is as it seems. And of course, you can see that scenario does not always work. Again, using the cancer thing, you might try to pray your cancer away instead of getting a doctor to work. Now, some people that works on, but a lot of people that doesn't work on. A lot of people, unfortunately, die of cancer. Or you might be sitting in your car outside of a grocery store, and before you turn the key and see if it's working or not, you could pray that it's working, and sometimes it works. And if it works, you go, see, my prayer made my car work. But then when it doesn't work, what happens? You say, my prayer failed? Well, why'd your prayer fail that way? Or why did the prayer fail for Bob, but it worked for Betty? Because she's a good person and he's a bad person? Well, it gets a little silly then, okay? Let's go here. The spectrum of existence swings. So faith is a part of existence. Again, the only option we have other than faith is mathematically proving certainty that things will work out the way we have, and that's both impossible a lot of times because the world is so complex and it's even inefficient. Scientific faith is also wrong. People will be surprised that I say scientific faith is also wrong, but the difference is that science always to some degree improves in its knowledge. But a mathematician once said all lines that are parallel will never meet, and anybody else would say, duh. Of course, two lines that are parallel, they'll never meet. That makes total sense. Well, that doesn't make sense on a sphere, of course, because if you have two parallel lines on the equator, eventually they do meet at the North Pole. So what somebody realized is that it depends on the geometry. But for thousands of years, since the Greeks stated that two parallel lines will never meet, and it wasn't until a couple of thousand years later that mathematics, not religion, this is not religion, this is mathematics, and mathematics, it seems totally obvious, was totally wrong. It depended on you needed to qualify or become a lawyer of mathematics and say two lines that are parallel on a flat area will never meet. And who knows, maybe even that will be wrong. Because science is an approximation of its age. It always gets better, but at this moment, almost all scientific thought will change in 1,000 years, but it will improve. So I wanted to, give the religious people some weaponry here, that they have an actual scientist saying, and a hardcore scientist saying that scientific faith is not only wrong, but is always wrong. All the things that we have nowadays in science are wrong in the sense that they are an approximation. They will get better later on. Now that's what distinguishes science from religion. And we'll get here. I'm talking about the parallel lines as far as scientific data. Scientists were the ones who were saying that the sun moved, but then later on scientists said, oh, wait a second, no, the sun doesn't move. It was scientists who said the speed of light was infinite. It wasn't religious people who said that. It was scientists. And then, people discovered that the speed of light was not infinite, and they were scientists. So science improves, at least has the attribute that it could be wrong, but it always improves its field of knowledge. The thing about the difference, though, between religion and science is that one of the first things is that religion thinks that their religion is the only one that is correct, and all other religions are incorrect. And governments and countries sometimes believe that same thing. Hey, Italy, we're the most correct country in the world. Or Germany, we're the most correct. We have the most correct type of government or country in the best country in the world. Sometimes that leads to wars, unfortunately. But they usually stick with their dogmas, unfortunately, until they're broken. And then some religions have died off because they just stuck with their dogmas and never adapted to the world, which is when science might be wrong, in a sense that it's approximate at this moment. It might be pretty right, but not exactly right. Who knows, it may never be exactly right, but it always improves. One of the things also that conquers a religion, so why science conquers religion, is that no religion or country denies that science is invalid. Everybody in Germany doesn't jump off a building and says, "Yeah, I'm going to jump off a building." Every citizen in Germany doesn't say, "Hey, I'm going to jump off a building because gravity doesn't work in Germany." People are just not that silly. Also, you might say, well, that's physics, maybe biology. No, people in Italy don't go, hey, I think I'll stick my head in a microwave oven because Italians can take radiation from microwave ovens better than anybody on the earth. So whether it's chemistry, geology, mountains in Italy or in America or in Germany, why is there a volcano in Italy? For the same reason there's pretty much a volcano in America or Germany, or Hawaii or whatever, So all religions and all countries, whether they're all countries, as great as they might think they are, none of them deny that science is not valid in their country, but is valid in other people's countries. Okay, let's take a look at some other ideas that I wanted to get across here. Here I've written, science is the universal language of both human and non-human existence. By universal, of course, it's what I've just stated, is that no religion or country, jingoistic country, has ever said, yeah, I don't think that's the moon. Anyways, let's go to science sooner or later accepts the ideas of its heretics. Yes, I agree that science is sometimes as bad as religion, well, in the sense that there are people out there that are saying, hey, something is wrong with this scientific idea, and they have nothing to gain by saying it's wrong, and science will ignore them for many, many years. The invention of the laser, which is commonplace everywhere nowadays, it was created on paper for 30 years. So before a laser was built, before we had the technology to build a laser. So science was like, yeah, it looks like a pretty good idea, but the guy didn't win I think he won a Nobel Prize for creating the laser. I hope he did. It's one of the most important, at least I hope he got the patent for it. But anyways, science didn't really think of it consequential until it was built. the laser was able to be technologically built. So science can, but sooner or later, science has to accept its heretics, because otherwise it does not move forward. Then the heretics are the people who are bringing new ideas to science, to physics, and biology, and chemistry, and geology, and all other forms of science. Who knows? Even artists are like that, where some artists are not appreciated in their time. Stanley Kubrick, or Jackson Pollock, or Van Gogh. But then all of a sudden, 50 years later, 100 years later, whatever, people are like, oh, I'll spend $80 million on his painting. Okay. And so eventually, science always improves as an approximation of the interpretation of all phenomena governing every aspect of human endeavor in the world, let alone the interactions of all things cosmically physical. Religion has never accepted its heretics' ideas. It always retains notions from bygone era that has never accepted the proofs against its dogmas that have occurred since its inception. So religion doesn't evolve. We're still reading 2,000-year-old books, whether it's the Quran or whatever, and accepting some of the ideas in there. Even though nowadays people go, oh well, that was just written there, but we'll ignore it now. Well, why are you ignoring it? God wrote it. Your God wrote it. You shouldn't ignore those things that your religious people are calling stupid or not applicable in the nowadays. Why? God didn't see things ahead of time and see that there was going to be a problem with this statement? You're smarter than God? In a sense, I'm a more want people to believe their religious faith than anybody else. So I just don't want them to be hypocrites. And science very rarely will be. It might be hypocritical at one part of its era, but later on it becomes less hypocritical, and it has to. Otherwise, it will not live. So in conclusion, though faith in science can sometimes be as wrong as faith in religion or spirituality, the limit of scope which science can accurately describe all cosmic occurrences will always be greater than that of religion or spirituality, if only for one reason, and that is that science allows the evolution of man's ideas to always improve, to always evolve, whereas religion forces ideas to stagnate in the past and eventually become as extinct as all other non-evolving entities. Okay. Alrighty. Well, hopefully that's enough food for thought for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I look forward to any comments at the bottom. Thank you very much.